That's the
I'm
intro.
Greg Tran, and this is Ray. We're here to talk about real estate. So you have some questions there, Ray. What do you got?
Yeah, why do you believe real estate is still one of the most reliable ways to build long-term wealth?
Well, I guess before even answering that, let's talk about the two main ways people are normally trying to invest and build wealth, and that's either real estate or it's the stock market. Yeah.
Okay.
So what the stock market is really easy to do. It's easy to open an account, put some money in, and you're in. But what the stock market isn't is you have like no control over it, and taxes on stocks suck.
Sorry, I just learned there were taxes on stocks.
Huh?
I just learned there were taxes on stocks.
There's taxes if you make money on them,
Okay.
right? So that part of it sucks. And so let's just talk about those two, and bring it back to real estate. The reason real estate is awesome is because you have a lot of control over what you do. Like first, you have control over timing. That's the same as a stock. You can decide when you buy and sell real estate, just like you can with a stock. But you can also like get a deal on real estate, right? Like you may have something that this is the market value, but you may be able to get below that. And let's say you get something, let's just call it $10,000 below market value. That's $10,000 that you just made, right? You can't do that in a stock most of the time, unless if you work for a company or something. So that's the first one. You can get a deal on it. You can also add value, right? A typical thing you think about is buying a property that looks like crap. And I love properties that look like crap. And I like that because it turns off most buyers out there from wanting to buy something like that.
Right, so you can get a deal.
Yeah, and it's just another way of getting a deal, right?
Okay.
And then when you fix it up, you can make the choices of how to fix it up, and depending on what you do, you can add more value or less value. And you just have, overall a lot of flexibility in what you do with it.
And then you can hold it, or you can flip it, right? So those are also more ways to control it.
Yeah, many choices that you can make, and it just all depends on what kind of investment goals you have.
Do you think that it's easier to offload real estate than it is to offload stocks?
Oh no. So in technical term, we call that liquidity, but yeah, it's much easier to offload a stock. You can click a button and sold, right? That can be a good and bad thing depending on your situation. So if you want to do something quickly, yeah, that's a really good thing that you can hit a button and do it. But it can also be a bad thing. Like it can let your emotions dictate more of what you do. Like I can get scared and I can click a button and it's got me out. But that may not actually be what I really want to do long term, right? So real estate, it does take more of a process. Like yes, you're going to pay fees when you sell. Yes, it's going to be a minimum of like a few weeks to a month before you can sell something, and it's probably going to be longer. And so it is less liquid than a stock, but that can also give you a little more time to make the right long-term decision.
And there are other ways to make your real estate value liquid, right? Getting a HELOC or refinancing or...
So you're talking about ways to get money from your real estate investment without just selling it.
Correct.
Yeah. So that's a good point. With real estate, it's pretty easy to get the money out of it, right? Like everyone talks about, oh, my property's going up in value, and so that's the equity that's growing. But it's not money in your checking account. It's stuck in the home. But like you said, there are ways to access that. The two main ways, and you may have just mentioned this. One of those is called a cash out refi. So if your property's gone up a lot, you can essentially get a new loan on it that can take out a big chunk of the equity and turn that into cash that you put into your checking account. So that's one way. And the other way is to get a line of credit against it. And so the way a line of credit works is it's kind of like a checking account, not really, but it's like an account with your bank where let's say you have a $200,000 line of credit. It just sits there, it doesn't do anything, it doesn't cost you any money while you have it. But let's say you need 50 grand for something, you can just borrow it. You'll start paying interest on what you borrowed, but you can pay it back as quick as you want, and so it's very flexible.
Why do you think so many people stay renting even when they know that buying is better than their long term, or for their long term wealth?
Well, let me ask you. When I first met you, I said, "Why don't you own a house?" And you said, "I don't remember what you said. Why?"
I didn't want to be trapped. I didn't want to be stuck.
What did you mean by that? Why are you stuck?
I like to travel. I like the idea of not living in one place for my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
So then I didn't know about a lot of the things that I know now, but I wanted to have the flexibility
Mm-hmm.
to just decide one day that I wanted to live somewhere else
Mm-hmm.
and not be stuck with a huge anchor, I guess is the way that I used to think of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I also wasn't thinking about my long-term wealth either. I was, late 20s, early 30s, not planning long-term future. So, but once I started to become educated, right? So like for the people who do know, real estate is good for your long-term wealth building, and still stay renting for
Mm-hmm.
various reasons. What do you think those main reasons are? Do you think it's like based on emotion or based on economics or interest rates, the market? Why do you think those people stay renting and don't look at other options to get into homeownership?
So there's the reasons you mentioned. So the reason I think some people stay renters instead of buying a home is, like you said, some people might think that they are trapped or as you said, like anchored to a spot because you bought a piece of real estate, or that you want to travel. I mean, to that I would say, hey, I own real estate. I travel as much as I want to, right? And with the anchor, like we mentioned earlier that yeah, you can't just push a button and sell it. So that is something. That being said, if you were to need to move to somewhere else, it's also not a huge thing to actually sell your house, right? Like people do this every day. Yeah. So yes, you can easily sell a house and go somewhere else and either rent or buy in that place. But what I think other people, the reasons that they rent instead of buy, I think there's more than I can count. Some that I can think of. First is some people haven't saved up the down payment. I think that's a really big thing, and it can be hard for people, right? Like even if you talk about putting 5% down on a house, if it's a $400,000 house, you're talking, I don't know, I can't do math. What is that? 20 grand? Yeah, yeah. So
you clearly did math very well.
So $20,000. You're gonna need another, we'll call it, $6,000 for closing costs. So I'm just gonna round it up. You're gonna need $30,000. And for some people, if you're not used to, or maybe you don't have the ability to save that extra every month to build up a chunk like that, that can be something that's very hard to do mentally. So I think that's one part of it. The other is the mental part. It kind of like what you talked about. Like it can feel like a very big deal to buy a house, especially if you've never done it before. Right? When you talk about, before most people buy a house, the most valuable thing they own is their car, right? And for a car,
I would say it's the most expensive thing, maybe not necessarily the most valuable, but yeah.
Sure. Okay. So the car is probably the most expensive thing that most people are going to have, mm-hmm. and the difference in how your mind has to work when you go into a dealership and buy a $30,000 car, it feels very different from, oh, I'm going to go buy a $300,000 house. Right, and it feels really big, even though the actual down payment, the cash that you put towards it, can be small. It can be $15,000, it can be $30,000, it can be just as much as the car, but you're controlling a much larger asset. So I think that that can be something that people worry about.
What are some different ways that we could be thinking or talking about money that would help people sort of get over that mental
Mm-hmm.
obstacle.
So the first thing is understanding that like you don't need 20% down to buy a house, right? A lot of people think that you need to have 20% down to buy a house. And look, it's great. Like there are benefits to putting 20% down on a house. Like you're not going to pay this extra thing called mortgage insurance, and that's not a huge number, right? It can be maybe 150 extra bucks a month, but a lot of people think that you need to get to that 20% to be making a good financial decision. I actually don't think that's true. Like I think it's totally fine if you're going to be living in a house. If you want to put down 3% or 5% or 10%, I think any of those is fine. So first, understanding that even though you're buying a $300,000 house, you maybe only need $15,000, $20,000, $30,000 for it. I think that's a big deal. I don't know what.
Other ways to sort of like think about the mental obstacles, right? Of like the small amount of money, percentage amount of money, I guess, or the thinking of like the car payment as less than the house situation, right? But obviously with a car, we all know that you lose value the second you drive it off the lot, whether it's used or new.
Yeah.
That is not right. Historically, real estate only goes up.
Yeah.
So what do you think the mental blocks are? How can we change the conversation so that we can think about money and investing in ourselves in the future differently?
I think that's a great point that you just made between buying a depreciating asset, which is a car, and an appreciating asset, which is a house. The reason that you can't get into a car with zero down most of the times is because, like you said, once you drive it off, that thing's going down in value, and it only goes down in value. Like, scratch the fringe cases of like collectible stuff. A typical car just goes down in value every single day. The more you use it, it goes down, right? In a house, the thing that people aren't thinking about because it takes longer and it's just a long-term investment is that over time, like you said, it does go up. And historically, if you look at the charts, it looks like this. Of course, if you look like month by month, year by year, there are fluctuations. That is how it happens, but over time it goes up. And that's actually the best thing about what we talked about earlier, that you just have to put a little bit down for a house and not a lot. So that's like the most powerful thing. Imagine you put 10% down on a $300,000 house, that's 30 grand, right? If the house goes up just by 10%, let's say that's like 2 or 3 years, right? So it goes up by $30,000. Yes, the house value has gone up by 10%, but on the money that you actually invested, that $30,000, you've actually doubled it over that 2 or 3 year period. So it's a really big thing that people don't think about a lot.
Right. We sort of think about inflation more about like the day-to-day things that we buy and not necessarily about the money that we've already paid towards something, right? Like, yes, we put down $30,000 on this house, but if we were to do the same thing today, really it's be like $38,000. But also our house has gone up, so really the amount that you have paid towards that house is actually going down the longer you hold on to it. Yeah,
I mean we're actually getting into some, I call it second level type thinking on asset ownership and like home ownership, but to put into different words, what you're saying is the kind of financing that we can get on, like the kind of loans we can get on a house is really a beautiful thing if you think about it, right? Like we can put down 5%, we can have a fixed rate mortgage. So right now, let's call it a 6% mortgage. So that mortgage part is going to be the same for 30 years. Like let's call it $2,000 a month for 30 years. If we don't touch it, we can make that same $2,000 payment over the next 30 years. The interesting thing is over time, everything costs more. The value of our house is going to go up. So that value is going to keep going up. Our payment's going to stay the same, right? So that's one part of the beauty. The other part of the beauty is we're still paying $2,000 every single month for 30 years, but those dollars are actually worth less and less every single year, right? It's like how if I buy a coffee now it costs $6,
right?
Whereas before I used to complain that it cost $3.
Yeah.
Right. So like so coffee went from $3 to $6. but my mortgage payment didn't go from $2,000 to $4,000. It's still $2,000. So over time, that the value of that payment actually goes less and less and less and less as the value of your house goes higher.
You sort of talked about some of the types of financing that you can get. What are some other ways that people can think about getting financing for getting into real estate or earning that the down payment if they don't, right? If they want to make a move today but they don't have the money saved up, and looking at the prospect of saving it over a long period of time, they're like maybe a year or so out to just having the down payment. What are some options available to them maybe if they want to do that sooner?
That's an interesting question. I mean, you can get gifts, right?
Okay.
I think gifts is something that we see a lot with first-time home buyers, whether it's family or someone else, getting a gift to help with that initial chunk to get into a home. That's a beautiful thing if somebody can help you with that, because if that sets you 4 or 5 years ahead in the journey, it's a really big deal. Barring that, like, gosh, saving's very hard. Like I know if the money goes into your checking account, it's most likely going to go out of your checking account. So what I always, when I'm talking to somebody who's trying to save up for a down payment, I'll suggest this. I don't know how many people actually do it, but I'll suggest that they tell their payroll people, their HR people, hey, when my paycheck comes, split off X amount into this other account, like preferably some online account that's really hard to access, so you just don't notice it, right? Like if it's just gone, we just won't even notice it, and it will just keep growing without us paying attention. Once we know that there's a chunk of money, we want to spend it.
Yes, yeah, that is actually one of the ways that we saved our down payment. I don't know if it's still around, but it was this thing called Digit, and every time I made a purchase on my debit card, it would round it up to like the next nearest dollar, and all of those pennies and whatever it was would go into a digital savings account. Yeah. And I could also say, pay attention to my spending, and then if I go for a while and I'm not spending something, it would take larger chunks of money, up to like $50 or so, and throw it into the savings account. So there's definitely some fun ways to save some money. And I wouldn't even think about it. I didn't notice it, right? So it's not like majorly impactful. I never tried to take like hundreds of dollars, so that was nice. What if I am trying to buy a property that has it's a duplex or a multi-family home and it's got some tenants in it? Can their rental payments be considered towards helping me sort of like purchase the home initially?
Yes, that can help a lot. Like if you're let's say it's a duplex and one side's empty that you're going to move into, and the other side is already rented out and it's got a lease on it. I don't remember the exact percentage, but the lenders will take some portion of that rent, and that will count as your income when they do they call it DTI, debt to income ratio. So part of that income will apply to that and make it easier for you to qualify. And that's why a lot of times, especially for first time buyers, that's a really smart play if you do something like that.
Yeah, because it doesn't just get you into home ownership; it also gets you into like renting, right?
Investing,
right? Yeah. Investing in it, not just investing in your own future, but in like building your rental portfolio, essentially. And then when you've got more money, or you have moved, jobs, or you need to relocate or whatever, now you've still got a rental property. Yeah. You can just rent on the other side, and now you've got nothing but income.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's kind of a fun way to think about that. What else should we talk about?
I don't know. Earlier you were talking about that whatever app you use that saved this stuff, and the thing that jumped out to me, you mentioned the word fun. I think if you're saving for something, I think if you can turn it into some kind of game or something fun, I think that can help a lot. Whether you have some target and you're looking at it together with by yourself or with a partner, or however it is to have fun with it, I think that helps a lot not just in real estate, just
going to the
wealth
gym
building in general, or anything really.
Things that we don't necessarily want to do, we should do.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Well, I think that's enough for now.
I think we've talked about real estate enough for today.
Awesome. Cool.